chemistry, and so I switched into pure and applied, and I was going to go into engineering, didn't really know what kind of engineering. I was leaning more towards mechanical, and then they came, the mining department here at Mcgill does recruitment in the CEGEPs to try to get people interested in their program. So I went to their open house and it seemed really interesting, and so and it's a co-op program, so that was really interesting to me also. So I just kind of applied, and I figured if I didn't like it, I wouldn't lose anything because it was essentially the same classes as a civil engineering degree for the first year. So I decided to give it a try, and it stuck. I think some of the big misconceptions is that, well, it's not a misconception, there are a lot of men in the industry, but I think people think that it's a very sexist industry and that women are very poorly treated. I'd have to say my personal experience hasn't been that. All the men have been very accommodating. I always felt safe at work. I was never made to feel uncomfortable or less, worthy because I was a female. Another misconception is that, it's a very rough and tumble kind of industry where it's really not. There's a lot of engineering and technical knowledge that goes into it because of the fact that you're working with nature and not engineered materials. There's a lot of thought and research that goes into things, and I think people don't realize that. Okay, so mining at Mcgill is relatively small especially compared to the other departments. We're about 40 to 50 people in the program, and we're about 10 people per year. I'm the only girl in my year, so a very small department. Okay, so in mining, co-op is mandatory, which means we have a co-op coordinator that sends us job offers. And if you see something you're interested in, you let him know, and then he submits you for the interview process. Sometimes there's not even an interview process. Like for myself, my first work term at Inco, I didn't even have to go through an interview. They just submitted my CV, and on the basis of my CV, I was accepted for a job. So it's mandatory. So everybody kind of goes through the same interview process. Co-op, I've done quite a few interviews actually, with all kinds of companies, from construction companies to oil sands companies to just regular hard rock mining companies. The interview process is pretty much the same for all of them. In the mining industry, there's a lot of safety training involved. I know for my first industrial work term, I ended up having a whole week of safety training at Inco in Sudbury. So things about occupational health and safety, underground safety, material data sheets, everything that's like industrial safety. They make you go through that. There's also an underground portion where they take you underground and teach you how to identify hazards and things. In Quebec, they also, if you're working in a production setting, they'll also train you on how to use the equipment and safety things associated with things like explosives and equipment. So.
Perfect. Okay.
So after my first work term was a research experience here at Mcgill. So after my second year, I went on my first industrial work term, and it really changed my perspective because up until that point, I hadn't really had anything practical to apply any of my knowledge to, and working in the industry put it all in a kind of like a real setting, and I kind of understood what I was learning, and I was able to put all my knowledge from school in a context, and it made me realize that I really did enjoy what I was studying. So it kind of reinforced my decision to stay in the program. There's definitely a shortage of skilled mining engineers in the industry. You can tell by the salaries that are being offered and the way companies try to jump on prospective employees. The problem is I think a lot of the older mining engineers are retiring right now, and the mining industry was in a down cycle for quite a few years, and during that time people weren't interested in coming into the mining engineering programs. So now when there wasn't like a continuous stream of people coming out of school, so now they've realized they've got a big hole that they have to fill. not only to replace the retired mining engineers, but there's a lot of projects that are starting up, new projects. The mining industry is on an upswing, so they're really trying to fill positions from like. I think if Mcgill wanted to recruit more people to the program, it really starts with educating the public, making them think it's not like a dirty job. That was another one of the misconceptions, is that it's very dirty. Most engineers stay in the office; they rarely go underground. And it's not a dirty industry at all. Maybe just let people know that with a degree in mining engineering, you're not forced to go work in towns in the middle of nowhere, or there's a lot of possibilities. You can go into things like finance or heavy construction projects here in like near the cities and stuff. You're not forced to leave the city to go work in a rural area, and I think people don't realize that. I think it's a dirty job, and that is located wherever in like polluted middle of nowhere. It's really not at all, and I think if Mcgill stressed the number of opportunities that you would have upon graduation, it might attract people who, especially people like myself and Sejab, who weren't really sure what they wanted to do. Maybe show that it's a nice combination of all kinds of fields, and that might bring more people in. So.